investigator who wanted to get into the things that were a little fishy about this story, which turns out the only thing that was fishy was the fact that Ursula and Sabina were a little weird and did things a little differently, as we'll discover. And that's when he couldn't get it. He couldn't understand that anybody could be weird enough to do any of the things that they did. But the one tidbit that I gleaned from the book was about them as teenagers. That he doesn't know if it's rumor or not, but that Ursula and
It's
Sabina...
not a tidbit, it's just rumor.
We'll find out.
It's a tidbit, though.
It's a tidbit. But one story from someone who grew up with them was that Ursula and Sabina were known as, like, kind of a terrible twosome in high school, and that they would, like, bully people, and that Sabina was, like, a super punk, like, had the crazy hair before anybody else did in town, and it was just, like, them just, like, chain smoking and calling people fat. I was like, that's kind of fun. I like those girls.
And Sabina, don't cross him. I wouldn't mess with him.
No.
So they were just mean. But of course, this is also the type of guy that, hears that. It's like, so you knew that they had a future of criminality ahead.
Exactly.
This is also the same guy who wrote a book called Immigration, Immigration, Immigration.
And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's not a cry of love for immigration. You know what I mean? He's not like so excited it's happening.
No, ironically, it's all about foreign policy. Very strange. Very strange title. So that's an anti-book recommendation.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
dude. So hours of my life wasted.
Very rare.
Nothing to help in the episode.
I don't think we've ever done that before. Very rare.
Oh, no, it happens quite often.
Well, you usually don't scream about it so much.
No, sometimes I do.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, in the year 2000, both sisters decided to leave Sweden for separate destinations. Ursula came here to the United States, while Sabina moved to County Cork in Ireland. And whilst in Ireland, she met a partner and had 2 children. Now, the 2 sisters stayed in touch through social media and would speak to each other on the phone at least once a day, but they went years without seeing each other in person. But that all changed on May 18th, 2008, when the 2 sisters were in their late 30s.
I look for so much information on this period of their lives, and I couldn't find jack shit, which is the ultimate thing about Philadelphia, is that the madness is private. It really is this, like, it becomes the separate little bubble. That's why it feels like a 2-person cult. Like, they kind of came back together after not seeing for years, and what everybody said was that they then became inseparable, where they were, like, almost scared to leave each other.
Yeah. But of course, that was only for one day, because this shit got out of hand at a spectacularly fast pace for reasons unknown to anybody. And the reason why we don't know a whole lot about Ursula and Sabina is because they're both extraordinarily private people. Never spoken about any of this.
Sabina will refuse to speak about any of this. It was no comment. We have no clue what their interior thoughts were, which is, it's kind of interesting how many times you'll see, and we talk about on the show all the time, about how the only way we know the inner lives, a lot of the perpetrators of these crimes, is because they talk after the fact.
Right.
And then we find out whether or not, then we kind of have to adjudicate whether or not they're full of shit, or they're building their myth, or are they actually telling the truth.
I think that she doesn't want to talk. It's kind of nice, actually.
Now, it's argued that the primary in this case of madness for 2 was Ursula. At the time, she suffered from a rare psychiatric disorder in which she could hear voices but couldn't understand what they were saying.
Yes, like when you're in the McDonald's drive-thru. No, I want to eat McChicken. McChicken. I want the Travis Scott meal. You're a duck.
Can you order the Travis Scott meal?
Yeah, it's not. What do you mean? We're not in North Korea. It's not plastic food. I mean, it is plastic.
You just call it the Travis Scott meal?
That's what it's called, the Travis Scott meal.
Oh, I don't know.
It's like the Michael Jordan meal they had back in the early 90s.
Now, this is just speculation on my part, but I think it's possible that the 2 sisters began interpreting these voices together, creating a bizarre fantasy world in which they were being pursued by persons and for reasons unknown.
I do believe that Sabina might have had some drug use in the past. It sounds like she might have been into some shit when she was living in Ireland, but I don't think that excuses, because they said
We
that
all have drug use.
But Did the guy who wrote the book, was he the one that said that?
No, I saw a couple of things because they're wondering how they go fucking so crazy so fast.
Well, that was the great chapter in that book. It was all about how immigration is bringing drugs into our twins. Our twins and twins.
But I wonder, it just seems that there something was happening. Something must have spurred something that kind of became conspiratorial very fast. I don't know. Maybe
something must have happened.
Well, remember they talked on the phone to each other almost every single day. So if there was something going on, if there was some sort of buildup, then it very well could have started in those daily conversations. And remember, in the case of David Coughlin, that happened within a matter of days, and they were still pretty close. And and in the matter of the Trumps as well, like that was also something that escalated pretty quickly. So if they had just gotten together, if they hadn't spoken to each other in years and years, then maybe there would be other factors at play here.
Extenuating circumstances.
The extenuating circumstance. But I think because they talked with each other on the phone every day, I think the phone conversations actually led to the visit, which led to the madness.
Okay.
Now, once Ursula showed up in Ireland, the twins refused to leave each other's side. And from reports, Sabina and her husband got into an argument the first night Ursula was there, although we don't know what the argument was about. What we do know is that after the argument, Sabina clandestinely packed a bag for a trip, and the two sisters left the house in the middle of the night without telling Sabina's husband or her two children where they were going.
Well, Sabina's husband did say the line, and you guys can infer what it means. It doesn't matter that you're sisters. Who cares? Just pretend you guys are friends, and we can go into the room. And it doesn't. No one cares. It doesn't matter. I've seen it on video. Remember the Barbie twins? They were super hot. They were twins, right? It doesn't matter.
Just listen to me, babe. You guys are Swedish.
Right. It's like you guys are one person.
Sisters kiss in Sweden every day.
Kisters, baby.
Kisters.
Well, as it turned out, the sisters had taken the overnight ferry to Liverpool and had arrived on the shores of England at 8:30 a.m. the day after Ursula arrived back in the British Isles. Within less than 24 hours, the madness for two had taken a hold in both sisters.
It must have been the plan that they were going to do this, but they also then didn't have a lot of a plan because then they showed up and then they just wandered around for about 36 hours.
I don't know if they had a plan or if they or if there was something that, because I mean, okay, so I mean that's the thing about this whole case is that like with every single little thing that they do, you kind of have to question what is their motivation behind that. But you also have to remember that they're both suffering from bizarre delusions, so there really is no logic to anything that they're doing. There's an internal logic.
There's an internal logic
that makes sense to the two of them, but internal logic on bizarre delusions is fucking indecipherable.
But that's the only reason why, that's the only thing I mean as a plan, is that they had some harebrained scheme. This is how it's going to go down. And we're going to talk a little bit about what they thought in a second.
Now, upon exiting the ferry, the sisters immediately went to a police station and reported that Sabina's children back in Ireland were in danger, but wouldn't say why they traveled out of Ireland to report the crime, nor would they say what the danger was.
One interesting thing that came from the book was apparently when they were in the lobby for the police, when they were waiting to hear them, like they filed their report because, number one, it was weird because the cops were like, why didn't you file this report in Ireland, where you live? Why did you come to another country to report this? And so while they sat and they were kind of figuring that shit out, somebody walked into the lobby while they were waiting, and Sabina